Chair, we are ready to go.
All right. Would like to call to order the Historic District Commission meeting for April 11th, 2022. If you would all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The Frostburg Historic District Commission implements the city's Historic Preservation Overlay District of the Frostburg Zoning Ordinance Section 4 as adopted in 2014, pursuant to the authority granted by the Maryland Land Use Articles Section 8 as adopted in 2012 of the Annotated Code of Maryland. This meeting is open to the public and conducted in compliance with the State of Maryland's Open Meeting Act. The Frostburg Historic District Commission is charged with the preservation of historic structures and their surroundings within the designated district in order to safeguard the heritage of the city, stabilize and improve property values, strengthen the local economy, and foster civic beauty. All right, let's do the roll call. I am the chair, Dawn Hine. Vice Chair, Joseph Hoffman.
Present.
Bill Detterman.
Present.
Rob Rapan.
Present.
Maureen Brewer.
Here.
And our alternate, Daniel Filer, is not with us this evening. So Commissioners, if you would please review the agenda for this evening, and when you are ready, if I could have a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Approve.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
And I will second that.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, the agenda is approved. And Commissioners, if you would please review the minutes from our last meeting in March, and when you are ready, if you would please have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from last month's meeting.
I second it.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, the minutes are approved. All right, so now we will move to our project presentations. And our first one is 115 East Main Street. And Jamison, if you would like to, we don't have a chair, but you can just pull up.
Towards the bench.
Yes, please.
A photography professor let me borrow this box.
And I guess maybe at the very beginning, I should say I will need to recuse myself from this vote today, as I have a connection to the project.
So, you've all seen this, so I suppose I don't really need to show this to you again. What I wanted to show you is kind of my idea for what we could start having in the town of Frostburg if we get away from one simple thing. We love our heritage here. Everybody loves it. Everybody knows what heritage is. But as an artist, I'm getting sort of tired, and I know a lot of other artists too, of every RFP that comes our way needing to be about coal mines and trains, and we've got it. We've got plenty of it. It's not going anywhere. Our history's not going anywhere. I think we need to start moving our public art away from that. Nobody's going to forget it. We've got plenty of murals. Every mural or public art project that I've applied to since I've been here, that's what the call is. And I get it. I come from New England, and so we all grew up working in mills and being poor, and we love our mills, but that's it. We're not painting murals about them anymore. And I know that the heritage isn't going anywhere, and I don't want to erase it, but there's something more to public art, and it doesn't have to always illustrate our past. That quote down at the bottom is by one of my favorite people. She did not break up the Beatles. She's a great conceptual artist. Now, Dawn, I know you've recused yourself,
Yes.
but that quote, she talks about art giving you something to chew on. Now, it doesn't always have to be something political, something that has a big, deeper meaning. That blue bear down at the bottom of the page, it changes the city. It does. What would you say, in your opinion, and I hate to lecture, but that's what I do, is I talk all day. In my opinion, I have an opinion of what the most successful piece of public art is in Frostburg right now. And I realized it the other morning. It's because it gives you something to chew on. It was never intended to be public art, but everybody knows it. And because you drive by it every day, and it's that. I know what the intention of that was, okay? This fellow was trying to build, it was a school, right? It was gonna be the size of Noah's Ark. Then he ran out of funding, okay?
Church.
Yeah, that's right. It was, I thought it was, I remember when I first moved here, it was one snowy morning in 2011, and it was on the BBC. I couldn't believe it, that this made it to the BBC.
And it still does not float.
It still does not float, it never will float, and it's not going anywhere. That thing is gonna outlast all of us, right? It's always gonna be there, people are always gonna talk about it, whatever the intention was. And so that's what I really want to start, I really hope that this proposal that I'm putting forward, and if you say no to it, then you say no to it. I'll retool and come back with another idea, and I'm fine with that. But I like the idea of moving this town and moving Cumberland towards, we've got plenty of work that celebrates the history of this place. Okay, now I think we need to start letting artists be artists and not worry about having to illustrate trains and coal mines. That's not going anywhere, and it shouldn't go anywhere. But I think we need to inject something different that, like Yoko said, gives you something to chew on. Now, my murmuration is, the idea is that I would include myself, a couple professors, a couple FSU students, and then I would put out, if it gets approved, put out a call to any local that wants to participate to come and, work. I'm working with Professor Ash Lester, this other guy, and we'd like to make it sort of inclusive in a way that maybe what we could do is we'll be the ones kind of doing the mural, but I think we could make sort of a few stencils so that we could just have like maybe some like local kids or some schools just like participate in it. I know I did a little mural in downtown Cumberland, and every kid that would like walk by, I'd be like, you want to do some of it? And so I would let them, and then my kids' friends came and they all participated, and like every time they walked by it, they're like, that's the one that I did. So I like the idea that people from this town could do something simple like a little bird that's part of a commemoration. And going forward, I know that we all are on different committees and we like this area, and I just kind of want to urge your committee to, whenever there is money available for public art, maybe try something a little bit different going forward, or suggest it to the places in town that have that. Like I know FrostburgFirst, they got grant money to do a mural, but it's got to be celebrating the heritage, and I can't do it anymore. And I know that it's like, I don't know, maybe people just don't know this because from the creative side of it, it's like hearing the same drum over and over again. And some of the artwork turns out brilliant, turns out beautiful, but it's the same theme,
Yeah, I think that is difficult
something
because of
different.
grants.
It is difficult because
They
of
give
grants,
you
but
a
you got to start
priority.
somewhere,
Right.
and I understand that. And I was talking with my wife about this. Town we moved from, the historic district 2, you have to have green awnings. You can't have anything but that. And I understand bylaws of towns. I understand what funding happens, but I just wanted to put that suggestion out there. And if this is not your cup of tea and you vote against it, then you do. And I'll resubmit with a different idea. But I think this idea would make something that, and if I just lead you through this real quick, this is almost a final composition. I'm gonna work it out better so that it kind of flows a little bit better on the page, or on the wall, as it does right now. It's a little bit scattered. I wanna make it a little bit more refined and kind of have some of the birds kind of flocking around the few windows that will still be there. So it'll be generally like this, but just cleaned up a little bit. Yes?
How are you going to get up there to do the painting?
That's a good question. Jetpack.
That would work.
No, no, no.
Like the Jetsons.
So,
they did.
I've applied to two means of funding. I don't know if the town has any scaffolding that could be rented, so that's one option. I will need to rent scaffolding. So, portion of if I get the grant approval through the university, which would be $2,200, and then I've been talking with Elizabeth Stallman, and there may be some funds available for that. So, all funds will be basically to pay for supplies, and if we hire any students to kind of help us out. But I think that the majority of this can be handled with Just a couple simple ladders, but it probably would be easiest if I get some scaffolding set up. So it won't be really that much to do. I mean, we could do it with like a cherry picker, but probably scaffolding would be the best for people to kind of create the work. But it's not really much of a mountain to climb to get something like that set up.
What kind of paint would you use?
So this would be mostly high quality spray paint. And so basically what we would do is every bird would, I'd kind of sketch it out first in probably chalk or something like that. So each bird would start with kind of like a spray paint base just to get the main color up there. And then what I'd be using is probably this company called Crink, which makes these really great outdoor paint markers that are like metal tipped. They're industrial. They're like thick as my arm and like $30 each, but they're for sort of like fine exterior work. So it would be mostly spray and then probably the detail work done with that. But I'm pretty used to using spray paint, and I can use different size caps to make actual details and things. That would be the easiest way to do it, and that would be probably the way that will withstand everything the best. And for kids, the funnest. But then they run around and spray each other, and I have to kind of stop.
Is this wall already pre-prepped for this, or
The wall's all set. It doesn't really need anything beyond what it is. It's in really good condition.
Just the latex paint on it?
Yeah, it's not gonna fall anywhere, and it'll just be exterior paint.
Are the trees staying?
Yeah, and that's kind of one thing that I like about this is I was thinking about that as I've driven by there a million times before I decided to say to the woman over my pizza, "Hey, can I paint something on your wall?" I like that the trees will come and go. Like they'll be very full, and you won't be able to see much of it. You'll see the little bits of it in the summertime. There'll be little birds there. I like the idea that when the winter comes around and all the leaves are gone, then all of a sudden there'll be like a big full mural. You know, it's kind of bleak around here in the winter. So yeah, the trees aren't going anywhere. We'll work around them. I like trees. No murmurations without trees.
What about solar lighting for
Well, geez, Joe. Solar lighting. Explain yourself. I hope that this.
pop at night?
Oh yeah. Well,
A little
I mean-
fluorescent paint on it.
if you're willing to fund it, then we'll do anything. Plenty of solar light. No, there could be something like that, just to have little floods kind of like pointing up at it at night. The color scheme, what I did was I just did Roy G. Biv, so every color represented in the rainbow. Whether or not we stick with that, it'll be sort of similar to that. I think I might tone the tones down a little bit so that they're not like
Neon.
neon. Yeah. Well, that's also part of the printing process. Like these are very bright looking. They're not actually that bright looking. So there'll be some that are, but it's not going to be this big scattered bright thing. I may tone it down a little bit, but we'll see. But it's going to be generally like this.
To keep Joe happy, you will go by wavelength of colors as you go across the building.
The initial proposal was just a portrait of Joe. And then I thought, that's good. That's the easy one. They'll just say yes. But also, you know, you can always use a hand if you want to come and spray a couple birds. You could use a guy named Joe.
I like your idea of involving young people
Yeah.
in the town.
Thank you. I think it's
I'm
important.
sure the schools would cooperate if you wanted to work something.
Yeah, I don't think that would be a hard sell, just because it especially towards the end of the school year when everybody doesn't want to teach anymore. I'm like, sure, take my students. But I'd be happy to get a good group of kids out there working on it for a day or so. And, you know, again, I think my kids really enjoy walking past the mural that I made, not because Dad made a mural, but because they got to draw on it. And, like, that's their part. You know, they made a mural. And I think that that's something that will be part of kind of the fabric here. If this thing goes, then you'll have kids that are kids now, and then in 20 years, they'll be like, look, this is what I did, you know? So I guess that's what I got. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I have a hard time, I mean, I know the idea, and I can see it, and I've watched all kinds of videos
Yes,
like
yes,
that. I'm having a hard time, I don't know whether it's because these individuals are bigger, I'm having a hard time visualizing what you're intending that it's a
Yeah.
wave.
No, that's fine. This one is actually, this seems like
Yeah,
scrunched up.
Like if they were a whole
Yeah.
lot
This
smaller
one,
Well,
and closer together.
This got
okay,
squished.
so a true murmuration like what you're
Right.
seeing right here would be sort of difficult to replicate with colors. You could do it, but I think what my idea was to separate the birds a little bit so that you could see them individually. What I was saying before is that this is sort of it's not the final draft, I would say. I'm going to tighten some of this up a little bit, maybe add a few more birds in some of these little areas so that it does kind of tighten it up like that. Whoa, what's that?
Sorry.
Wow, it's really zoomed in.
It just seemed
There
to
we
me
go.
There it is.
if they were smaller
Yeah.
and tighter, and then
Yeah,
you could
yeah.
actually see, otherwise it's gonna just, to look quick at it, you don't see anything other than a bunch of colors. Now,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's gonna look like birds,
Well, and
prism,
it's
but it won't look like, to me, a wave,
no, and it's never gonna. My intention is never to have it. It was never originally to have it look like like a full huge
Natural.
murmuration
This
in
is
the
just a
sky.
portion of that.
Because this
right?
is if I did do that, I think it might make it look like too much.
Yeah.
Like if there were just millions of these little birds on there, I think it would get lost and the building would just look like paint splatters. I think if I did something like this, which is a little bit looser, but again, there, in these areas that are not filled, I'm pretty sure that once I'm up there, I'll be like, all right, we need more birds here. Step back, need more birds here, to make it so that it's looking like it's flowing across the building, because that's the goal, is to make it look like it's flowing. But it won't ever be
and that was
quite
my,
this
that
tight.
was my point,
Yeah.
just so it would be obvious that it
Yeah,
was flowing.
yeah, and that's the idea. Like I was saying before, this is not like a rough draft. It's pretty close to what it's going to be, but I will have it kind of designed so that it's more flowy across the building. And probably a little bit more heavy done on this side too, because that's the side that like you first see when you're coming up the hill
Yeah.
to the building.
It will evolve as it is completed.
As murmurations do. Yeah, and so if it goes, it goes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I think that it could be something interesting. It'd be the biggest mural in that area, just as far as square footage. And I hope it's the first of many interesting projects that get proposed by us. If FSU funds it, great. If not, we'll figure out how to do it.
That was gonna be my question, is if you don't get the funding
Yeah.
from FSU,
So-
how do you plan to move ahead?
So Elizabeth Stallman has said that they could commit $2,000 to it, and that would be kind of, I think, the bare minimum for supplies, and I'll just pay for the rest. But again, if it goes, it goes. If it doesn't, I'll come up with another idea. And I know it's weird. It's a little weird, but that's. I think it's not too weird. I was trying to think of what would work best there. My original idea was like, I don't know why, but like a giant yellow bear. And then I was like, nobody's gonna pass that. What is that? Think
Frostburg
harder.
Bear. They were
I know. Well,
Frostburg Bear.
because I'm trying to sort of push local public art into like a giant rocking chair, or I love this one. These stones that are piled and just like colorful. If there was something like that on, 68, right? I think there should be dueling public art, like across the highway from this. If we erected something else there, not anything disrespectful, because my intention is not to mock anything when I printed this out, but it really is. It's a structure created by people.
People ask.
No more so than this chair.
Been asked
People
many
ask
times.
about it. They talk about
What
it.
is that?
Exactly. It shows up on, if you Google American roadside oddities, it's there. It was never intended to be that, an oddity, but it's sort of become that, and makes people talk, gives you something to chew on. I would like to make public art out here that goes beyond, aren't you the town that has the giant half arc built, And maybe one day it'll get finished, maybe not. Maybe we turn it into something else. Outdoor movie theater.
Is there
You know,
anything in
one of
the-
if you're looking for some more funds, if the FSU doesn't come through, you should talk to us for FrostburgFirst as well, see if we can find some other sources.
I think we'll be fine with this project. I'm not too worried about the money. I've got a good feeling about the proposal that I put into the school. If they say no, they say no. But I think we should be able to do it if Elizabeth Stallman, if that budget goes through, she's pretty confident that they can allocate that $2,000 to this. then we should be fine. Anything above that, I would, supplies will cost a lot of money. It's like paint's not cheap, and especially this much paint. But, I'd like to maybe employ a few students to help out so that they're really kind of getting some experiential learning here.
What's your time frame?
Time frame would be pretty quick, Elizabeth Stallman said that they could commit the $2,000 if we started it in, I think before either June 1st or around then. So my goal would be, my semester ends on the 10th, and then finals are done by the 18th of May. So right around then is probably when we would begin it. I just have to see if I can ideally get someone to donate scaffolding, if that's a possibility, because that would be the first step. But if not, then I'll figure something out. So, springtime, May, June. And if something comes up and the people that are helping me do this can't do it then this summer, but May, June is the target. Anything else I could answer for you, or?
It looks good. Looks
Thanks.
very good.
Appreciate it.
And one of the nice things about that particular site, coming up the hill, it just stands.
Yeah, it's right there. It's just big empty spaces begging for something. Maybe this is it, maybe it's not, but I think that, if we do something like this and really kind of like push or seek more RFPs, people that are interested in getting stuff done in the building, I like the idea of pushing the creativity, and I think there's a lot of artists in this area that could do some pretty wild stuff. You've got a little time. Come on, Joe.
The problem with retirement is the hours are so bad.
And I think that, with these projects that I showed you today, they're just ideas. Like, really, anybody can come up with an idea for a public art project, and then you assemble a team to put it together. And that's kind of what I love about these things is, if you have this idea, you could do this, Joe. You could paint a bunch of rocks, right? Anybody could do that. But, it's about positioning the stuff and putting it somewhere and making it so that, oh my gosh, you change the landscape for the better, And I don't want to hound on how I think we need to slightly move away from recognizing the town history, but I do, I know there are no giant blue bears that have ever been here, but wouldn't that be interesting on Main Street?
No.
Were there?
Be,
Was there?
be careful.
Blue bear.
You don't remember Christmas? You don't remember having blue elephants on Main Street? Very
That
large
created
blue
such a
elephants.
turmoil.
When was this? When was this? This Christmas.
This past
Christmas.
Christmas.
It was a lighted
Yes.
display.
Right in front of the school.
Right in front
Yeah.
of Mountain Ridge.
And nobody liked it?
Huh?
A lot of people like that.
I
I
Good,
like it.
good. That's great.
Oh, it's
I thought some
terrific.
people
I'm
were
sure City Hall got a lot of
Yeah.
calls. Oh, yeah. Why did you do that?
They just showed up out of the blue.
There was when I moved here from a
Yeah,
town
right.
in Connecticut that has a great contemporary art museum, and I remember they had this display outside. I can't remember the artist, but it was a gigantic, lifelike baby, huge, like the size of like 5 cars stacked up, and people either loved it or they hated it, but they were talking about it. It was part of the dialogue. I did an illustration for the newspaper, but like I was getting so many articles to illustrate from the newspaper, and they were like opinion articles about the giant baby. But I loved how it was just making people talk. It was making them discuss art or stuff like that. So, and I think if we can kind of push the public art that we do here, honestly, like when I see the murals that have been painted out here, there's some really great stuff. Paris's mural, the one that he did in Cumberland. There's one that's going up pretty soon across from that adventure room. Just make sure it's not me. But I think people aren't going to come here to learn about our history or the town's history. They're going to come here because I hear there's some pretty wild art there. When they get here, they'll learn about it. They'll find out what Frostburg's about. But I can't think of any town that people are going there to see their heritage murals, And that's why I want to do different things, because we've got a lot of those. We need new stuff. And that's it. And I don't mean to offend anybody. I really don't. Trying to say this in a kind way, because there's a lot of great murals painted
commissioners, any other questions or discussion points?
I'll go sit back in the crowd. Would you like me to leave these here?
I like to see the big one though.
Sure.
This, please. Thank you.
And if you think of any questions, feel free to shout them out.
I can work on something down low.
Yeah, definitely. The lower ones. Yeah, I'm not going to put any kids up on scaffolding, so the low-hanging ones will be the
There you go.
I don't
Good
want
idea.
art-related injuries.
So this would have no repercussion on the historic district if we approve something like this, because it's not a permanent thing. It's
Correct. I think there would be no negative repercussion
okay.
based on the rules and procedures that you follow in the zoning ordinance and in particular the historic preservation overlay. Public art is perfectly permissible in the historic district.
Okay.
Yep.
And as far as the building goes, the brick has already been painted, so
Right.
you're not putting paint on unpainted brick.
That's
Portions have been parged.
right.
Yeah, I was curious about that myself. Seems to be.
Are we ready for a motion? Madam Chair.
Yes, if there's no other discussion,
I will make a motion, but I'm not sure that what we have here.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like,
What am I gonna say? Yeah.
I'll try it. I've been
Okay,
trying
go
to
for
do
it.
something. Okay. I have studied the application and all relevant documents and presentation related to this case, and I'm familiar with the property in question. I find that the proposed changes are new to the neighborhood, but are compatible with the A&E district in a general compatibility of design, scale, proportion, arrangement, texture, and materials to be used. Based on these findings, I move to approve the proposal because the use of exterior materials are new in appearance to
That's
the
where I got
original
stuck.
materials, and they will be significant in the A&E district and historic district pursuant to section 4.1.j.1.c. Will that work? Okay.
Beautifully, thank you.
I
It's
second
a little
that.
unusual in terms of the fact that we're not commenting upon something
Right.
that's being done of a historical nature to a historical building.
I second it.
all right. Any other discussion? Did we have any public comment?
No, Madam Chair, we had no public comment.
All right, thank you. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, motion passes.
Thank you all very much.
That'd be nice.
You're welcome.
Thank you for your presentation.
And let me know, I might bring my paintbrush up.
Oh, I didn't think that was a question. You will be there. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Jamison, thank
Even
you.
though you've been recused.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
gonna be an improvement.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. We'll be in touch. Okay, we'll be in touch formally with a letter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can't wait. All
We
right.
can't either. We're excited.
Me too. It's nice to be excited about stuff again, isn't it?
Yep.
There'll probably be at least 10 accidents of people who are going up and
Right.
doing this. What are they doing?
Oh, that, yeah.
Yes.
What are they
I
doing?
can't help that.
How did
My
they?
artwork creates a car accident.
We can put up a curtain or
So
something.
that intersection's tough anyway, so.
Right.
It might
I know.
slow people down a little.
Yeah.
It might be me that gets into the car accident.
You'll spend all your time over at 7-Eleven.
Especially
you
if
can
you
I was
watch it.
coming out of 7-Eleven one morning with a coffee and looking up because they have the best cheap coffee. I said, that wall needs something.
But just think, at night as you're driving up that highway and you
Yeah.
have those bright floodlights that are solar powered, of course, just illuminating that whole.
I think that's a great idea. We'll just have to figure out, how to fund that. Because
That would not be
neat.
expensive.
You're right.
Huh?
Kind of
You don't think it'd be too expensive? So maybe that if everything goes my way and I get FSU's funding and I get the town's funding, then there would probably be enough to do something like that too. So I have no intention of paying myself. I just want enough money to create the artwork, to get the supplies, and to pay some students.
It shall be known as the Murmuring Wall.
Okay.
The
All right.
Murmuring
Thank you
Wall.
all so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next proposal this evening is on West Mechanic Street parking lot. And I don't see Deirdre here this evening, so
She is
Frostburg.
under the COVID weather right now.
Oh.
Yeah, she's off this week. Well, she's working, but remotely.
Gotcha.
She
All
had
right.
intended to join us this evening, but because this is kind of a joint venture between FrostburgFirst and Community Development,
Oh.
I'll be happy to present this one
Well, thank you, LJ.
in Deirdre's place. So FrostburgFirst put out an RFP for public art almost a year ago. And there was a contest involved, there was a grand prize and runner-up and honorable mention. And the funding for this came from a Maryland State Arts Council grant. It was a New Artworks Across Maryland Planning grant. So we put out the RFP and we received 4 different proposals. And you'll see on your screen now, this is the photo of the location. This is the parking lot directly behind the first block of West Main Street that is also adjacent to City Place. It's that West Mechanic Street lot. There's a walking path along there and some trees and a planter. And there's this plain little gravel area right here, very small area. That's where the public art was going to go. So a selection committee sat down and we figured out, what we felt was the best and the most appropriate submission. So let me scroll down to this installation. Obviously, this is a rough sketch of an installation called A Trellis to Remember. And it's 2 old treated railroad ties, 1 piece of coal, and that coal is connected to the posts with rebar and copper tubes. The idea behind this is to honor the history of coal and the railroad in Frostburg.
That looks like the coronavirus.
I may have heard that comment a time or 2. So there are some solar lights arranged around the bottom here for uplighting at nighttime. The wood is going to be treated as blackish wood, and the rods will have a rust and copper patina. So as you can see, it's a relatively small installation. It does have meaning related to our history and our heritage. However, I do take Professor Odone's comments very seriously because I agree with him that he is right and that, our heritage is very important to us and it has its place in our public art, but so do many other things that, impress you and
I agree.
make you happy to witness them and be a part of that. That's part of the art experience, and there are a lot of different ways to do that.
If I understand the way this will look when it's completed, it does have a certain whimsical look to it where children especially could see that and think of all kinds of different things.
Absolutely, and it will be safe and approachable and touchable. There won't be sharp, scratchy, pointy ends or anything like that.
How big will it be?
What is the size?
Does he have the chunk of coal that
Yeah,
he wants
I think
to?
that's gonna be a big problem.
Yes.
Most coal I've seen has
Is
been
brittle.
smaller.
Not that big, yes.
Yeah.
It's
That
gonna be-
was-
there's
It may
plenty of
just
chunks
be a
of coal that
replica.
size.
That was
No,
what
that's not a problem, but
Heavy.
Because coal's
It-
enclosed, so it's
it-
probably just a
it-
replica.
trial,
would imagine.
it breaks pretty easy.
Right. That's why I was like, how are you gonna make
I
that
would think
stable?
somebody would come up and tap it against
Tap
the
it
shot.
and get a shard off and, yeah.
Mhm. I don't think it's actually going to be real coal. The way he
Okay.
describes it is,
That's what I was
Yeah.
wondering, if he was going to
Yeah.
simulate the coal.
Well,
this piece is
coal's
about
enclosed,
honoring the
so-
history of Frostburg
Yeah.
railroad ties and coal mixed with older rebar and copper tubes, giving the sense of a coal starburst surrounded by native plants and a blooming vine. I call it a trellis to remember.
So,
I'm still looking for the measurements.
so in the sketch, I guess the
I don't get the
bottom part is
For what?
where the
Joe.
plants will grow up onto it.
Squares, I
Mhm,
don't
and
see
around
the
it,
little square.
look at its feet.
4 squares per foot.
Yes, this was originally drawn on graph paper, so 4
Oh,
squares
that's
per
what
foot
it's
at the
talking
bottom
about.
is what it's
Which
referring
does
to,
not
but
fit
the
in.
graph paper lines didn't come across on the copy.
Oh, I see.
Well,
Who is going to be doing the landscaping of native plants?
That will be the artist himself. His name is Frank Asher. His company name is Frank's Terra Dreams. And it's my impression that natural native plants and greenery are a part of his art. It's part of the installation.
He spoke to the garden club, I think, 2 months ago
Did he? Awesome.
Yeah, I think that'd be
about
very
native
nice.
plants.
right.
There were some unique requirements for this grant funding, and they included specifically addressing our history and nature and art. Another portion, the initial Maryland State Arts Council grant provided for the RFP and the contest, and the heritage area, Passages of the Potomac Heritage Area, has provided a mini grant for the installation. And the State Arts Council also supplied some Arts and Entertainment District operating funds to help bring this all together. Another part of the requirement was about combining culture with sustainability. So I think there is a nod, while to our history that is coal, there's also a bright future to look forward to, and the fact that pieces of this art are coming together from recycled bits speaks to the sustainability portion of the requirements.
Will this have some kind of a legend, a plaque, something to explain the native plants and such?
It doesn't list that as part of the installation at this time, but that's something I could bring forward.
I think something that might give the artists impressions of what he's trying to convey by
Yeah.
way of linking all of these different concepts together.
Sure,
There's probably wording like that in the grant application, I would imagine.
I'm sure there is. So just an interpretive plaque,
Something
something to give the
'cause
artist credit and
people
explain,
will look at it and go,
what is this?
I mean,
Sure.
I think they're gonna get the one on the building. And you're
Okay.
gonna get the phone calls.
Right, right, so we'll
You should have
certainly,
a separate line, call this,
yeah,
down at the bottom of the building, right, call this number if you have comments.
I cannot believe the number of people who actually were quite concerned about the blue elephants
Oh,
at Christmas time. I'm thinking to myself,
yes.
that is so cute. The
And-
kids, our grandkids, loved it.
People got into it. Did you see
Yeah.
the video that went crazy on Facebook about
No.
people being interviewed and talking about it?
Yeah.
It was really funny. It was fun to watch while it was happening.
It was a satire.
Did anybody
I don't know.
own up to who put it up? Oh,
That wasn't public knowledge that we did it?
Will it be up next year?
might
You
be
may be
something different.
surprised. You may be
It
surprised.
moves
They're
to
gonna
another
travel.
town.
Yes, it's gonna be
Stay
another
tuned.
Well, as the
Right.
story I heard was that they were the ones who took the Magi. I like that one. That was the best interpretation of the why we had them there. Did you come up with it?
I did not.
I can see that light bulb lighting up.
So that is the proposal, and the grant funding is in place to start that installation this spring. And just to wrap up my portion of the presentation, since we are working together with FrostburgFirst our Parks and Recreation crew is going to help with the footers. So that will help also with expense and cost.
Did we get any public comments?
No, Madam Chair, while we routinely and often plead for public comment and cordially invite our citizens to join us, we have received none.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, commissioners, if there are not any additional questions or discussions, can I have a motion, please?
I have a motion. I have the same one. I've studied the application, all relevant documents and presentation related to the case. I'm familiar with the property in question. I find that the changes are compatible with the neighborhood because they're of general compatibility in design, scale, proportion, arrangement, texture, and materials to be used, including native plants. Based on these findings, I move to approve the proposal because the use of exterior materials are closely similar in appearance to original materials or buildings in the district pursuant to section 4.1.J.1.C.
I'll second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Hearing none opposed, motion passes.
I thank you kindly, and if I could just make one more comment, even though she couldn't be with us tonight, I'd like to thank Deirdre Robertson of FrostburgFirst, who just goes after this grant funding and really keeps Frostburg in mind across all these different kinds of things that she can work toward. And she's an absolute rock star, and she's brought us so much that we can be proud of here in Frostburg. So I'd just like to thank her, even though she's not here.
Yeah, and relevant to what Jamison was saying, and I do agree with him that we have so much opportunity to take advantage of public art that commemorates history, but also public art that just is whimsical and silly and interesting, and I think we should take advantage of that.
It definitely has its place. I agree with him wholeheartedly. Another project that Deirdre and I are working on together is to try to improve our depot gateway. And a mural is one of the answers to that project. Some public art that will be interactive with the public is one of those answers to that call. And I think the murmuration will completely enhance the gateway to our business town center. It's going to be a great welcome. It'll be really
Well,
nice.
I also think these projects, we need to take advantage that we are a Maryland A&E district.
Yes.
I mean, that's a big deal to go through, getting that designation.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I think we need to remind people that, we should be proud of that designation.
We have so much to offer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Before we go, could you give us an update on the Elks Ramp project? Because
We can. Can we go through new business and then I'll be happy
Sure,
to address
sure.
that? That'd be great.
All right, so it looks like we do not have any old business to discuss this evening, so moving on to new business. We have a discussion about a staff approval for a vinyl window signage at 22 East Main Street, FYI Fingerprints.
Yes. They had sent us a proposal to do vinyl window clings, and they have been installed at this point, and they're easily removable. So we went ahead and, per our rubric, we were able to issue the administrative approval for that. So it looks really nice. They've got it on.
How are they doing?
I'm not too sure. They're very on the ball with getting things up and running, so I think it's going well.
Well, I know a couple years ago that at one time the only place you could go locally was down to Oakland to get your fingerprints done for background checks and stuff. So it's very nice to be able to have one here in Frostburg
Absolutely.
for Cumberland and Frostburg.
We were even purchasing out of the College of Ed a device for doing that because the kids had to travel.
Right?
If they went into the schools, they had to be.
You had to be fingerprinted, yes.
So yeah, I think that's an interesting business, and that's why I'm curious
It's
to
a
see
helpful
how
business.
it does.
All right, and the next new business item is another staff approval, routine maintenance and upkeep improvements, and painted commercial signage at 82 East Main Street, Baker Babes.
So at 82 East Main Street, that was the former location of, most recently, it was the Little Corner Market, and it also was home to Wholesome Harvest. So they're proposing to paint that awning, and then they've commissioned a local artist to paint their logo onto the awning. So again, painting is considered routine maintenance and upkeep, so we went ahead and issued that administrative approval.
Great, great.
And we should be seeing that pretty soon.
Because we brought that up before.
We have discussed that awning before, and we're really pleased to see that it's going to be
Yes.
updated. They made sure that they provided us with the historic palette from Sherwin.
Mhm.
It was
Yes.
Sherwin-Williams.
Yes.
It will be nice to see that redone.
Yeah. I think it's really nice to see a couple new businesses popping up, and again, I think we can credit Deirdre Robertson of FrostburgFirst and her pop-up program. I served on that committee in the conceptualization portion, I guess, and it's a fabulous success, despite the pandemic.
What is that business?
Baker Babes?
Baker Babes?
No, I mean, what kind of business is it?
Oh, they're bakers. They bake
Oh,
cookies and
well,
cupcakes.
I kind of figured that.
Babes.
Yeah. They're two friends who got together and enjoy doing that together, and I think they've worked on their business plan for a while, and now they're going for it.
Okay,
So,
cool.
Are they
yeah.
going to be doing baking in general, like bread and other things?
I'm not sure if it's going to include bread. I definitely know they cover the sweets spectrum.
Pies?
Yeah.
Pies would be
Well,
nice.
I noticed that the city bakery
Lorenzo's.
is for sale.
Mm-hmm.
So is he thinking of retiring or?
I believe that's the case, yes, sir. Yep. So we need to find
Interesting.
another
Are you interested?
baker.
Are you interested?
Well, yeah, yeah,
You can do that.
that's right.
Bakers have tough hours.
That's hard.
So then, are we good on that one? The staff approval? Okay. And then to address the Elks Lodge ramp, we are ready to go with that. I just need some, if there's any kind of inspection report from the fire marshal or any kind of report with comment from the fire marshal, I will need a copy of that.
Okay, because he was there, I was there the day
Did he
He
give
came
you a
by and said-
report?
no. No, he
Okay.
didn't give me one, no. I didn't ask Lowell about it, so,
Okay, maybe let's cross-reference that and double check.
okay.
Okay, that'd be great, and then we're rolling. The Elks will have ADA accessibility, and that'll be really
If
nice.
y'all want to see, I took a picture the other night of more of a close-up of where, you can pass that down. So that's the ramp, and then that little concrete pad there will be gone. We'll take that up and feather the blacktop out. But the ramp will be to the right of it.
To the right of the,
To the right of the
concrete
seat. Can you see
slab?
the bars coming down from the fire escape? They're black, so it's hard. I took that at night. So it'll be away from that, I think he said 6 inches, 4 or 6 inches away from that. But you'll be able to go from the ramp, from the fire escape onto the ramp. There shouldn't be any more of a, because the ramp won't be that high. It'll only be a couple inches high right there. It's pretty
Oh,
much
I see.
starts right there.
Okay, so you can access the ramp. It'll
Yes.
be on the same level
Yes.
as
Coming down.
the landing for
It'll
the
be
fire
harder to get up on it, but you don't want to go up a fire escape. You want to come down a fire escape.
As long as the fire marshal has
right.
approved.
Yeah.
You could go rescue somebody.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and then the point we had was it only gets used twice a month for lodge meetings. We don't rent it out. In the past, I mean, a long time ago, used to have dances and used to have a lot of people up there. All their activities were up in that big room. But since we have a room built on the ground level for that,
Oh, I
we
see.
don't use it anymore. So it's not used that much.
It was an interesting picture. You might have seen it in Facebook, 1947 Main Street. And it showed the area Oh, really, you're looking up Main Street again. There was an Acme store there, I didn't know that.
I saw that today.
An Acme store.
I just
Where
thought of
was
the
that?
Roadrunner and,
Acme, I
exactly.
Yeah, right? Where was
That's
the Acme?
exactly what I thought of when he said that.
Yeah, a big
first.
box that says
Well,
Acme
then
right
I
on the
thought
road.
of
Yes.
food.
No, it always fell on the coyote, right? It
Yes.
always
Right.
backfired and would fall on the
Yes.
coyote.
So
We
was it at
digress.
the corner there, at Depot and Main, at the corner?
As you would be a little bit down, about a block down, looking up Main Street, and the Acme store would have been in the vicinity, I guess, of after the Palace.
Oh, that far up. Okay, I was thinking
Yeah.
the other direction. Okay.
But there's so many pictures that have been posted recently of old pictures of Frostburg that really show the vivacious nature of
Oh,
Main
yes.
Street and how it's changed
How many stores
so
there
many
were.
times
Sure.
over the years.
Yeah.
Sometimes by fire it's changed, but other times just by new businesses coming in.
There was one the other day that showed, actually two different pictures the other day that showed the post office, the postcard of it built, and then there's another older picture of, that was a building before the Legion was there.
Yeah.
There was, the post office was on that corner, and that's way before my time.
It was connected almost to the gunner, the post
It
office.
Oh,
probably
really?
was.
Wow.
Probably was.
Wow. All right, if there is nothing else for the good of the order this
Yes,
evening,
yes.
do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
I started.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, hearing none opposed, we are adjourned.